fascist leader Benito Mussolini became Prime Minister of Italy in 1922. He aimed to expand the influence of Italian fascism by creating a new Roman Empire. Unable to compete with the major colonial and economic powers of Britain and France, Mussolini looked around for opportunities for colonial conquest. In 1923, he began the pacification of Libya. But it was not until the early 1930s that Italy took full control of the country. In 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia from its colony of Italian Somaliland. In 1936, Mussolini formed Italian East Africa by merging Eritrea, Italian Somaliland and Ethiopia.
For the British in North Africa, both Egypt and the Sudan played an important strategic role in controlling the Suez Canal, an important trade route to its Indian and Far Eastern interests, served by their merchant fleet, which was the largest in the world. Egypt and the Sudan also provided protection to their oil supplies from the Middle East. Although Egypt was an independent country, as a reaction to Italy's invasion of Ethiopia, the Anglo-Egyptian Treaty of 1936 granted Britain the right to station troops in Egypt. The British also controlled some strategically important Mediterranean interests, including the islands of Cyprus and Malta and the Crown Colony of Gibraltar, to help them protect their trade routes. Italy remained neutral when Germany invaded Poland in September 1939. However, when Germany invaded France in June 1940, Mussolini became worried that the British would make peace with Hitler before he had completed his own territorial conquests. So, on June 11, 1940, 6 days after the British evacuation at Dunkirk, Italy declared war on Britain and France. He infamously quoted, "I only need a few thousand dead so that I can sit at the peace conference as a man who has fought." Britain and Italy were now at war in the Mediterranean. At the outbreak of hostilities, the Italian army already had 250,000 men based in Libya. The British army opposing them only had 36,000 men based in Egypt. On June 14, 1940, 4 days after the Italian declaration of war, a small British force crossed from Egypt into Libya, which resulted in the capture of Fort Capuzzo by the 7th Hussars, with help from the Royal Air Force, while the 11th Hussars occupied Fort Maddalena further to the south. The small British force soon fell back to positions inside the Egyptian border, where the skirmishes continued. The Italian 2nd Black Shirt Division reoccupied Fort Capuzzo, while the 10th Italian Army concentrated in an area from Bardia to Tobruk. During these skirmishes, the British claimed to have inflicted 3,500 casualties on the Italians for loss of only 150 of their own men. On the 13th of September 1940, Marshal Graziani, with 5 divisions of the Italian 10th Army, began their invasion of Egypt, with the original objective to seize the Suez Canal. However, this was revised by Mussolini to capture the main British position at Mersa. En route, the Italians took control of the airfield at Sollum, which reduced the operational reach of the Royal Air Force and presented a threat to the Royal Navy in Alexandria. However, meeting dogged resistance, Graziani overestimated the strength of the British, and with a shortage of both transport and fuel, reduced his advance as far as the port of Sidi Barrani. Outside of Sidi Barrani, the Italians dug in and constructed a series of fortified camps. With the Battle of Britain reaching its climax and Britain facing a possible German invasion, they were in no position to counter the Italian thrust. However, by October 1940, the threat of an invasion had ceased, and the British began to reinforce their commander, General Archibald Wavell. Throughout December 1940, an additional 126,000 Commonwealth troops arrived in Egypt from Australia, Britain, India and New Zealand, as well as a shipment of new Matilda II tanks which were heavily armoured for the time. General O'Connor, the British commander, was ordered to attack the Italian positions in the areas of Sidi Barrani, Safafi and Bakbak. The Italians meanwhile had constructed a series of fortified camps protecting Sidi Barrani. These included the camps at Nabiwa, Tama East, Tama West and Rabia. The Italians had an estimated 75,000 men in and around the Sidi Barrani area, with about 120 tanks and 200 guns. The British had 25,000 men and a total of 275 cruiser and Matilda tanks. The British attack, codenamed Operation Compass, began on the 8th of December 1940, with the British driving through a 20-mile gap in the Italian defences between Safafi and the Nabiwa camp. The 4th Indian and the 7th Royal Tank Regiment turned north to attack the fortified camps and Sidi Barrani. They soon overran both the Nabiwa and the Tuma camps. At Maktila, the Selby force took the town with the aid of support from the Royal Navy. On the 9th of December, the 4th Armoured Brigade took up a position to the west of Sidi Barrani. With the aid of further Royal Navy support, Sidi Barrani surrendered on the evening of the 10th of December. The 7th Hussars cut the Italian retreat at Bakbak. In the end, some 20,000 prisoners were captured, with the British suffering about 700 losses. More might have been achieved if the 4th Indian Division had not been recalled to Cairo on the second day of the battle and sent to the Sudan, where another Italian army had taken to the field. Following their defeat at the Battle of Sidi Barrani, remnants of the 10th Italian Division were pursued by the British along the coast road to Sollum, where they were bombarded by Royal Navy warships. Operation Compass was only meant to be a limited offensive, but this was sustained with the help of captured Italian equipment and supplies. On the 3rd of January 1941, assisted by artillery, naval and air support, the 6th Australian Division and the 7th Royal Tank Regiment scored a major victory across the Libyan border at the fortress of Bardia, during which 36,000 Italian prisoners were taken. Having lost 8 of its 9 divisions, the Italian army fell back on the port of Tobruk. Again assisted by artillery, naval and air support, Tobruk fell to the Australian 16th and 19th Brigades and the 7th Armoured Brigade on the 21st of January. The Italian garrison suffered 2,048 casualties and 20,000 men were taken prisoner, while there were 400 Australian and British casualties. Following a brief tank battle between the Italian Babini Group and the 2nd Royal Tank Regiment, the Australians captured Derna on the 29th of January. The Italian 10th Army were cut off at Bedafon on the 5th and the 6th of February by the 7th Armoured Division. Here, the remnants of the Italian 10th Army surrendered. During Operation Compass, the British and Commonwealth troops suffered 1,900 men killed and wounded. They captured over 133,000 Italian prisoners, 420 tanks, over 845 guns and many aircraft. However, the British advance stopped short of driving the Italians completely out of North Africa. Churchill ordered that the offensive be stopped as the advance reached Alagala. Many British infantry and armoured units were then dispatched to defend Greece. This would help pave the way for the arrival of Major General Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps and the 1st Luftwaffe units.